Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the incredible story of plant evolution. We're talking about a journey that took nearly 500 million years and turned our world from just barren rock into the vibrant green planet we know and love. We're going to go from their origins in the water all the way to their total domination of the land. Okay, so let's really dive into this. It's an absolutely fantastic story of challenges, of mind-blowing innovations, and just the relentless march of life. You have to realize, every step of the way, plants had to solve these huge problems. How do you support yourself against gravity? Where do you find water? And how in the world do you reproduce when you're not surrounded by it?
So, we're going to follow this journey step by step. We'll see exactly how plants solved all the major problems of living outside of water. We'll start with that first big leap, we'll meet the pioneers, and then we'll track the major innovations that let them just explode in diversity and thrive.
So where does this all begin? Well, the story doesn't start on land at all. It starts in the water. See, the ancestor of every single land plant was a type of green algae, just living its best life completely underwater. Moving on to land. That was the first, and you could argue, the greatest challenge of them all. To make it on land, plants needed a brand new survival kit. I mean, think about it. They needed a way to stop their spores from drying out in the air, a way to protect their reproductive cells, a system to feed their young embryos, and a way to grow up towards the sun and down into the soil. These were the first massive hurdles they had to get over. So, who were the first ones to actually make this incredible leap? Well, they were the non-vascular plants. Think about the mosses, the liverworts, and the hornworts you see in damp, shady places. These guys were the true pioneers. They were the first to crack the code of surviving on land, even if they still had some pretty big limitations. Okay, so to really understand these pioneers, and honestly all plants, we need to get our heads around this core concept called alternation of generations. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but it just means that every plant lives two distinct lives. There's a haploid phase with one set of chromosomes and a diploid phase with two. The power dynamic, which one is dominant, is what really defines the major plant groups. Now, here's what's so cool about these early pioneers. The main plant you actually see, the green leafy part, that's the gametophyte. It's the dominant, independent photosynthetic stage. The sporophyte, on the other hand, is this smaller, simpler little structure that is totally dependent on the gametophyte just to survive. And this right here perfectly illustrates their limitations. Since they didn't have true roots or stems, they couldn't grow tall at all. And because their sperm actually needed to swim, they were forever tied to moist, damp environments. So yeah, they had a foothold on land, but they really couldn't wander very far from the water's edge. Within this pioneering group, evolution kind of proceeded through three distinct phyla. The liverworts are thought to be the most ancient lineage, then came the mosses, and then the hornworts. Each one has its own unique characteristics, but they all share that fundamental non-vascular lifestyle. Okay, so the next great challenge was all about structure. To truly conquer the land, plants needed a way to defy gravity, to grow tall and compete for sunlight, and to move water and nutrients from the soil all the way up to their leaves. And the solution? It was vascular tissue. This internal plumbing system, made of xylem and phloem, was an absolute game changer. It was like giving plants both a circulatory system and a skeleton all at once. It allowed them to reach for the sky and unlocked a whole new world of possibilities. And here is the huge shift, a complete 180 in the life cycle. With vascular tissue, that diploid sporophyte became the star of the show. It was now the dominant, long-lived, independent plant. So the big fern you see in the forest, that's the sporophyte. The gametophyte was shrunk down to a tiny, often overlooked little structure. The phylum Lycophyta, the club mosses, they're amazing because they show us this evolutionary transition happening in real time. Some of them, like Lycopodium, are homosporous. They make only one type of spore, just like their ancestors. But others, like Selaginella, are heterosporous. They make two different types of spores. And this distinction, this was a critical step for the next great innovation. So plants now had structure, they could grow tall, but they were still stuck. They were tethered to water for one absolutely critical function, reproduction. The sperm still had to swim to the egg. To really, truly colonize dry land, they had to break that final chain. The solution was one of biology's most brilliant inventions, the seed. I mean, a seed is a marvel of engineering. It's a tiny embryo packaged up with its own lunchbox of food all inside a protective coat. It completely eliminated the need for external water for fertilization and let the next generation just wait for the perfect conditions before sprouting. The first plants to figure this out were the gymnosperms. Their name literally means naked seeds. Think about a pine cone, right? The seeds just sit there, exposed on the scales of the cone. They're not wrapped up inside a fruit. This amazing innovation let them colonize much drier habitats, and they dominated the landscape for millions of years. So plants had conquered structure and they'd conquered reproduction. But the final problem was all about efficiency. Getting pollen from one plant to another was still a pretty random, wind-driven game of chance. There had to be a better, more targeted way to do it. And this brings us to the most successful plant strategy on the entire planet: the angiosperms, or as we know them, flowering plants. They solved the efficiency problem with two incredible new structures: the flower, designed to attract animal pollinators, and the fruit, designed to protect the seed and help it get around. This four-step strategy was nothing short of revolutionary. By essentially hiring animals, insects, birds, mammals, to do the work of pollination and seed dispersal, angiosperms outsourced huge parts of their reproductive cycle. This created a super efficient, super targeted system that led to an absolute explosion of diversity. So after this incredible 400 million year journey of innovation, what's the result? Well, it's the world we see all around us. Every forest, every meadow, every single jungle is a living testament to this incredible evolutionary saga. This timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? You can see how each major innovation, moving to land, developing plumbing, inventing the seed, and finally creating the flower, just built upon the last one, leading to these huge waves of change that transformed the planet. And wow, this number just says it all. Over 93% of all modern plant species have that internal plumbing system. So while the non-vascular plants were the brave first pioneers, today they are just vastly outnumbered. That vascular strategy was just incredibly successful. And if we break it down even more, the dominance of that last big innovation is just crystal clear. With around 300,000 known species, the flowering plants, the angiosperms, are by far the most diverse and widespread group on Earth today. They dwarf all the others combined. And that's really the key takeaway from this whole story. Plant evolution isn't over. It's still happening. They solved these incredible, immense problems to create the world we live in, and now they face a whole new set of challenges in a rapidly changing climate. Understanding their past really helps us appreciate just how important it is to preserve this incredible diversity for the future.